is a pretty sizable question that gets thrown around in the handheld gaming community as well as in general when it comes to gaming. Do you emulate older consoles or do you invest in original hardware to get that full experience? It's a good question. Gaming is a hobby, all about getting the most out of your product, so you want to invest that time and money into the best possible solution for playing the games you want to play.
Shut up and take my money!
Well, luckily for you, I'm here to give an opinion that no one even asked for. It's kind of my specialty. I have been on an original hardware kick, collecting handhelds and modding them to unlock their full potential. But this whole journey started because I was emulating games from my childhood to begin with. I started by downloading Dolphin and just playing GameCube games, and that's what got me into this whole retro handheld mess that I've got myself in. So, which is better? Is there even a right answer? Also, does anyone know how to tell your wife that you spent your entire life savings on a limited edition PSP? Accessibility is the biggest point to tackle when it comes to emulation versus original hardware. You see, no matter how you swing it, emulation wins the accessibility argument 9 times out of 10. As long as you have a smartphone, a laptop, you can begin emulation for the low price of secrecy and denial of using certain websites. Most anything can run at least consoles during the PS1 generation and below. It's how I played Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels. Still hilarious to me that Nintendo thought Americans were just so bad at video games that they reskinned an entirely different game, released it in America as Super Mario Bros. 2, and said thank you, goodbye, easy money. But say you have a gaming PC, Steam Deck, hell, even a decent smartphone with an external controller, then the possibilities open up even more. Oh, you gotta be shitting me. Now you have access to basically anything you can think of except most modern consoles. GameCube, PS2, PS3, Wii, even the Switch. As long as you are up to tinkering and playing with settings, you can almost get any console running. Now, getting a running ISO or ROM file for these games is a whole different ball game that I'm not gonna really get into. When you look at original hardware, the biggest obstacle is the price of certain consoles and games due to their age and rarity. eBay is going to be your best friend, especially for older handhelds, or even hardware modding in general. For example, I bought this PS Vita for $150 on eBay. I then modded it. I now have access to every PSP, PS Vita, and PS1 game naturally, on top of homebrew and mods by the community in the PS Vita modding scene. Handhelds like the Vita also have the compact form factor going for it. Unlike, your whole computer or even a Steam Deck, the Vita can fit into my jeans pocket or my backpack without really any hassle. So it all depends on what you want from your gaming experience. Do you value a vast library emulation brings for, a low entry cost? Or do you value the compact nature and the aesthetic and vibe of having a small portable handheld from your childhood? This reminds me of a passage from The Art of War. Bro, look at my sick PSP. I only spent $300 on it. Sun Tzu. Visuals are another thing that separates emulation from playing on original hardware that can make or break your decision. I can admit that nostalgia does blind me to how a game looked on the original handheld. Take Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, a game I will not shut up about. On the original PSP, it doesn't look bad. The small screen hides some of the less polished aspects that they designed around. But you take that and you put it on the PSPS emulator, size it up, upscale it, all of a sudden, it looks way better than you could have ever imagined. Stealing monster skulls has never looked so heavenly. Each option does have its perks and cons though. When I play a game on my Vita or 3DS, the game looks natural. It fits into the screen like it's meant to. It was designed around this console, like a perfectly tailored suit.
The boy is gift wrapped.
On the other hand, upscaling the game looks great when you're emulating, but then you notice some screen tearing here and there, or you input lag, or you're feeling off after experiencing the original. On the surface, it looks amazing and stylish, but there's some issues fitting it properly if you don't know what you're doing. I also have issues fitting properly into social circles. No one seems to want to hear the entire history of Sony video game mascots. I promise there's a reason Spyro the Dragon is not getting another game. For me personally, I prefer the original hardware avenue with the visuals. It fits better for me. I like how it looks. There's just something complete about getting to experience what the game designers worked around to give you the best experience. Device management is a topic that is more and more prevalent as more and more emulation devices hit the market. I can't wait to buy my 75th vertical emulation handheld from the TikTok shop from Ambernet. With so many options, it's hard to deny that having one device that fits your needs and can hold thousands of games from multiple systems isn't the best deal. If you only want one device that plays all your games and that's all you need, then things like the Odin 3, the Thor, or the Retroid Pocket exist. Or the Steam Deck, which is probably your best option because it plays Steam games and you can emulate on it. With the original hardware, your desk ends up looking like mine. Oh boy, I sure do love having my entire desk taken up by my endless supply of handheld devices. On the flip side though, having a dedicated device for each console for me gets rid of that paralyzing feeling I get when I have too many choices. With the original hardware, you limit yourself, but allow that feeling to go away as you now have a clear path of something like playing the PSP for PSP games specifically, or DS and 3DS only on the 3DS itself. It's also just fun to collect, just like I'm collecting money running away from my bank account as I buy the Monster Hunter Limited Edition 3DS. I am Capcom's biggest supporter, apparently. Now, those to me are the big three things that determine between the choices laid before you. But now I want to dive into some smaller, maybe more technical reasons you might choose one or the other as you hunt for your next handheld device. First up, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic.
There's a misinput!
I will be upfront. I don't notice or understand input latency between the two usually. I simply just don't have the brain capacity. There are no wrinkles that can detect those minor differences. It's smooth up there. It looks like King Neptune's bald head in the SpongeBob movie where it blinds everyone. With modern emulation and decent hardware, you can actually make your input latency better than the original hardware in something like RetroArch. At least that's what I read. The difference is though, you have to tinker and get everything all set up, unlike original hardware where you load up the game and it just plays like how you remember. When emulating, if you use programs like run ahead and frame delay, the input latency should be almost identical to the original, or in some cases even better. Again, just want to clarify, that's what I read online. I could be wrong. I didn't super deep dive that. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty as the settings on these like RetroArch and these emulators is all over the place. But just know if you're worried about input delay, since you're on an emulator, there are solutions. You can always find a way around it. Another big thing for me, but maybe not as big for others, is controls and controllers. You see, when you're playing on original hardware, you get the exact control layout the game was designed around. Playing a game on the PSP with that one thumbstick and D-pad layout, well, those games know this and put some camera controls on the R and L buttons to help around this weird layout. Or you can do my favorite grip I like to call the, let me point that out real fast. Same with, say, playing Game Boy games on a Game Boy. The games are designed around a D-pad and two face buttons and an L and R button. When emulating though, you are going to be using a universal controller most likely, like this Xbox controller for example. This has pros and cons. For instance, if emulating the PSP, you can map your D-pad to the right thumbstick, and now you have camera controls on the second thumbstick instead. You know, the ergonomics do feel better. It's what I do on my PS Vita when playing PSP games on it. That second thumbstick is always mapped to the D-pad. It can be a little wonky at times with certain games, but you know, hey, it gets the job done. I do prefer original hardware as the comfort of the games being designed around the handheld, for instance. It's nice to just pick it up and play kind of vibe that I want from handheld gaming especially. I don't mind this nearly as much when emulating, say, GameCube or PS2, as most consoles past the first generation have very similar controller layouts. I did buy a GameCube controller though, as it gets me. At this point, after considering all of these, you've probably already made your choice on if you're going to go with original hardware versus emulation. But I do have one more point I saved for last that to me was the biggest reason I have been gathering original hardware versus just emulating everything on my gaming computer, and that is sentimental value. I know that nostalgia blinds me. I'm not afraid to admit it, but I also understand that gaming and handheld gaming as a hobby, it's not just about playing the games for me. It's a whole experience. It's finding those classics from my childhood I maybe forgot about. 100% that game you never could beat as a kid. Laying in bed enjoying some of the classics. Your experience and history with gaming will reflect in your enjoyment. If you don't really have a lot of nostalgia or sentimental value with older consoles or just gaming in general, then emulating them won't really change how you feel. And honestly, you'll probably have a better experience with modern patches, extra mods that you can add to these games to give them a fresh coat of paint. But for people who played the originals or own some of these handhelds like I have here, then the sentimental value of having them and being able to use them again does increase their value more than I anticipated when I first got my PS Vita originally. I only planned on buying the PS Vita, and then I got a 3DS, and then I got a PSP, and then I got a Game Boy. And it snowballed because the feeling I got from owning these devices was more than I had bargained for. It's why I already have a list of handhelds I plan on buying, both original hardware and emulation devices. I don't want you coming out of this video thinking that I'm like against emulation and I'm like only original hardware. Emulation 9 times out of 10 is the best way to go. There are so many devices now that will let you emulate games so easily, like the Ein Thor, the Ein Odin, all those, the Retroid Pocket. Also, if you have a gaming computer, you already could just get all of these and access them so quickly. It's a good way to experiment, try out games, figure out what you like. Emulation is by far one of the greatest things to happen to gaming, just giving people access to so many things that would be lost to time. But for me, original hardware has something special that as I invest into it, I just find myself enjoying it. It's brought my passion back for gaming. I had been in a slump for so long with gaming that getting these handhelds, modding them, experiencing them, getting my hands on them has brought a passion and love back for gaming that I never thought I would be able to get back to, like when I was, 14, 15. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope, this kind of gave you an idea of like what this whole debate's even about, or maybe it even helped you make your decision. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.